So I was at Walmart the other day and I just happened to run into this, which is an RGB wireless phone charger for your car. And it had that beautiful yellow sticker, meaning it was on clearance for $5 instead of the normal 20. So I ended up getting it to check it out, but it also kind of led me down a rabbit hole to think what other tech items are at Walmart right now on clearance that are way cheaper than they should be. So after scouring the store and going back a few different times, I ended up finding some pretty cool tech items that we're going to check out in this video. First, let's start with this one. All right, let's put this to the test first. Again, this is the Mercury Power Mount Glow. Okay, so if we open this up, it's pretty simple with the contents. You have the wireless charger itself. You have a charging cable, which will plug into the charger. It looks like this one uses micro USB. Another nice thing about this one is it is a vent mount clip. So you do not have to permanently install this using adhesive on your dashboard, which could cause damage, especially when you're trying to take it off. Okay, so I've got this on here pretty sturdy now. You can tell this isn't going anywhere. However, it does look like my vents aren't strong enough to hold this upright. They just go downwards immediately. And that is pretty unfortunate because my phone's not even on this yet. So if it can't even hold the weight of the charger itself with my phone on it, it's gonna be basically pointing downwards the whole time. And I'm kind of losing access to this air vent because it's pointing downward instead of at my passenger seat where I want it to. Okay, regardless, we'll keep moving and see how it works anyway. Okay, so actually my closest USB-A port is here in my center console. So I'm gonna have to string this wire from here, plug it in, and then have it go to the charger. Hopefully I can string it across enough to where it'll be out of the way because this cord is kind of short. All right, so I've got this plugged in. We'll close that. And hopefully I can just run this wire right here on the side of the seat and then have it string up into the charger here. Now, I'm not really liking the fact that I have to plug this in the center console because it's making this cord, which I was hoping would be a little longer, just kind of string across right here where my shifter is. Again, my goal was to string this along the side of the seat so it could be more out of the way. But with the height of this air vent, really the only way that I can get this to be plugged in where I need it to be is just to have this sprawled out across the shifting area, which again, I don't think is a really good thing. Now, if you don't have a car that has USB ports like mine, you could also just use one of the 12-volt adapters that has a USB port on it, which actually would probably be better for my car anyway, because I do have a 12-volt port right here under the dashboard, right below where the wireless charger is. So ideally, if I had one of those adapters, I would just plug it in here so the cord would not have to be strung across the shifter like that. Okay, now for the moment of truth. We've got it installed here. These are rubber grips, by the way, and it says it holds phones up to 4 inches, which this is pretty wide. Okay, cool. So it is charging. That worked perfectly. And again, it's holding the phone very nicely. The rubber grips are nice because it gives it a very strong hold on this. Now, as far as the LEDs go, it looks like it is doing the pulsing, which again means that this is charging properly. So it looks like it's all working on the charging side of things. However, unfortunately, I can't really say that I'm liking this mount because look at how far the phone is drooping. Again, this might work differently in your car. Maybe your slats on your air vent are stronger than this and could hold a phone and a mount like this. Unfortunately, mine is not, and this is just making it really hard to angle the phone how I want it. If you look at it from the driver's perspective, I mean, it's not really facing me at all. But really what I would like is for the phone to be held up by the air vent a lot better because this would face me so much better while driving so I could see it a lot easier. Right now, if I let go of this, it's basically facing downwards, which isn't very helpful. And again, you can't adjust it within the mount, so I mean, I could get it to a point where it works okay, but it still just isn't as high up as I was expecting it to be, unfortunately. Another thing I'm noticing on this actually in real time is that it is not holding on well to the vent at all either. I mean, it's basically hanging on by a thread. So I'll try to install it one more time and wiggle it around to see if that makes any difference. I'll try putting it on the top slat this time. I've tightened this down as far as I can get it on the air vent. Let's see if this is any different this time. Okay, so it is charging. It is holding it a lot better actually this time. So maybe this is a better way to do it because this time instead of putting it on one of these middle slats, I put it on the very top, which doesn't have as much give as far as letting it droop like it was previously. So on the top slat here, it is holding it a lot more firmly, and actually I'm able to angle it a lot better than I was able to before. So yeah, this is definitely more of what I was expecting when I initially bought this. Now I am kind of worried that this is going to break the slat just because the mount itself is so heavy, plus the added weight of the phone. It does kind of worry me that as I'm driving and as I hit bumps or just normal vibrations happen in a car, that it might wear down and end up snapping that vent off. Hopefully that won't happen, but let's do a test drive now just to see if it holds up well while I'm driving around. Okay, so I'm gonna have this propped up as high as I can get it. That way we can tell if it droops by the end of this test drive. Okay, so as I'm driving here, I mean, I don't have any complaints. It definitely looks like it's holding it pretty steady. And a nice thing too is that it's not bouncing around a lot, so it wouldn't be hard to see if you were using this to navigate. It is holding it pretty steady, so you don't have to worry about seeing through a shaky phone. So overall, I do not think that this wireless charger was the worst thing in the world. The RGB lights did look really cool. However, the caveat to that is it looked really cool without a phone on it. Once you put a phone on it, you really couldn't see it anymore. All of the lights were blocked. So if you go in your car and turn it on and just leave those lights on, it does look pretty nice. It does a little bit of a glow onto the dashboard itself, but mainly you're just going to see the glow of those lights from the device itself when it's not blocked by a phone. But overall, I do think this was a good buy if you do have a car that might not droop down with the air vents like mine did. Okay, so the next clearance product is this on-brand power bank. This is 10,000 milliamp hour battery, so a pretty good size. And it does have dual ports, which is nice, so you can charge multiple items at the same time. And I was able to get this for $11 versus its normal price of about $20, so it's basically half off. And that is a pretty good price for a power bank like this. Now, as far as contents go for this one, it's very simple. You have the battery itself and a micro USB charging cord, which you use to actually charge the device. Now, to be honest, I actually have already been testing this one for the past week or two just to try it out on different items and see how it works over time. And I really haven't had any complaints. It has a very nice kind of soft texture to it. It's very sturdy feeling. And again, 10,000 milliamp hours isn't the biggest battery, but it definitely is enough to hold a charge for something like my iPhone 15 Pro for, I believe, about 2.5 full charges on that device. A nice feature of this one is that after you turn it on, it actually does have a display right here on the top, which tells you how much battery percentage is remaining. So it goes without saying, there's a lot of uses for a power bank. I probably don't have to say them to you, but charging my phone was my main idea when I bought this. However, I did end up finding an alternative use, which I actually like a lot better, and I've been using it pretty frequently, which is an LED light panel, which I use when filming these videos. I've been using these big softbox lights since I started my channel. Unfortunately, one of them broke recently, so I ended up getting these LED panels just to test them out since I needed a few more light sources when I'm filming. Now, what I didn't know when I bought these is that they have a USB-A port on them instead of a regular wall plug, which kind of worked out good for me because it made it so that I can use these lights portably by using this power bank. And another plus of this is it actually came with a phone mount as well, so I can have this installed pretty sturdily onto the tripod and not have this long wire strung across the room and plugging it into a wall somewhere. So again, just to demonstrate, it just makes it a lot less cumbersome to have the only cord I need to power this right here and installed on the tripod. I'm not going to be tripping over the cord, and it just makes it a lot more portable when I'm filming. And I have found that it has a pretty good longevity too. At least for these light panels, it does last at least for a few hours, which is plenty enough time for me to get my filming done. So basically, whether you're taking this on the go with you for mobile charging of your iPhone, whether you're powering a light, or really any device that you need power on, I did find that this is a pretty good power bank and a lot cheaper than what you'll find at Walmart or Amazon. Alright, so next up, let's take a look at this Monster brand LED light strip kit. Now this is called a kit, however it just includes a 6.5 foot light strip and an RF remote. So inside the box you have the spool which contains your light strip, the power cord for the light strip which is USB, it does not have its own block, and this very interesting looking remote. Now this is a touch remote too, so instead of having physical buttons that you press, you touch it like a touch screen and it should work. I don't know, we'll test it out. It doesn't look like this came with batteries, so it looks like we also need 2 AA batteries as well. Now the reason I chose the kitchen to put these lights in is, as you may know, I already do have under cabinet lights installed under my cabinets, but these are just a cool white temperature, and I don't necessarily like having that all day round, so it would be nice to have some RGB enabled lights, not only for mood lighting, but also maybe for decorations during the holidays. I think it'll work good. Plus, since this light strip is relatively short at 6.5 feet, I figured this long strip of cabinets would pretty well encapsulate it. I don't really have anywhere else in the house where 6.5 foot light strip would go well. It would either be too long or too short for the other cases. Now these lights are surprisingly high quality. They have a very thick plastic coating over them, which is unlike most of the cheap light strips that I've gotten. So these do seem to maybe be waterproof is my guess. The other lights that I have had without the plastic coating feel a lot more frail than this. So I am pretty confident that these are pretty durable and should last for a long time. Like pretty much all light strips, they do also have the 3M adhesive backing. So basically, I'm just planning to install this under the cabinets right here where the other lights are. So again, this cord did not come with a block. I'm just going to be using one of my old Apple blocks and hopefully it'll work well with it. So once it's plugged into the wall, I just take this pin connector here and this goes into the end of the LED strip, which I did put right here above me, so it lines up pretty well with the outlet it's plugging into. Okay, so with the lights installed now, honestly, I think they look pretty good. I like that they turned out pretty even and centered on this cabinet because it's not too dark on either one of the sides. So the length of the strip did work well in this case. The one thing that I noticed pretty much right away that I don't like about it is that since this is not frosted or diffused, you can immediately see the reflection of the light strip on the countertop and the cooktop. So from most angles, it looks pretty good and just like a soft glow, but if you look from an upward angle, you can see pretty well that they are not diffused and it's pretty obvious. I do not think that that looks good. Now this would be an issue with pretty much any light strip, not just this one, but it is something to consider that you probably do want to diffuse the lights if you're putting them under your cabinets so that you don't get that reflection. Oh, okay, and it looks like it is working. So I wanted to see how this works exactly, because it looks like you can just kind of move your finger around to change the color. Wow, and yeah, that works. That is pretty cool. So right here at the top you have your on button and your off button. And here on the bottom left you have the brightness buttons. The bottom right is going to have your different lighting modes where it pulses or flashes different colors. Now with this middle button on the remote, the S I'm assuming is going to be for speed. Because there are modes like this where it cycles between colors, you can choose how fast it goes when it does so. So yeah, overall I'm actually pretty impressed by this one. I wasn't sure about the look of the remote, or just having a remote in general isn't really keen for me because I am used to having smart light strips. The side of this one is it is not smart enabled. So you're not going to be able to use Bluetooth or Wi-Fi to control this one. However, according to the box, Mercury does allow you to control up to 30 devices, it looks like, from one remote. I mean, it is just an RF remote, so I guess that makes sense. So yeah, I think this probably would be a good buy if you're not looking for something smart or to include in a smart home. If you're just looking for a simple lighting setup and you don't mind using a remote to control it, then this does work pretty good. Now, so far, all of these products are things that I would say I had the potential to buy previously and things that I've been interested in, even if they were at full price. This next one is not, and that is what's called a locket. Basically, this is just a piece of silicone that has an adhesive backing that you can use to act as a wallet for the back of your phone and also as a pop socket holder. The only reason I bought this is because of the price. It was listed at $2 on the label. When I went to check out, it was only $1. So I mean, this definitely is a good price if this is something that you're interested in. I did end up going back to Walmart and finding a clearance pop socket as well. I mean, this is a design that you just can't refuse. This one was on clearance. It was $7. I really am never going to use this, so I had basically immediate buyer's remorse when I got this, but I did want to get it for the video to test out the locket with a real pop socket. Okay, so to be honest, I'm actually lucky enough to own an iPhone 15 Pro Max dummy. So basically this is just a fake iPhone. It doesn't turn on or do anything, but I will be using it to test this out. The contents of these items are just one piece each. So you've got the locket here and the pop socket. And actually, after opening this, I'm surprised this is way more rigid than I expected it to be. Based on the way it looked, I thought this was going to be silicone, but it's actually a hard plastic. There's barely any give in there. So I'm curious to see how this is going to work as far as holding cards, especially because it looks like it's already pretty much bent inwards. With the locket, you do not have to use the adhesive on the pop socket because it'll just slide right into this slot on the back of it. And that is a very solid hold. It actually clicked into place and it's going to be very difficult to take that out. So as far as sturdiness goes, holding the pop socket, that is impressive so far. So I'll do my best to center this on the iPhone here. I guess you can kind of choose how high or low it is. I'll put it more on the higher side, kind of like a MagSafe one would be. Okay, so that's stuck on there now, and I don't think it's gonna go anywhere. And I mean, look at that profile. That's definitely an interesting look for an iPhone. I mean, the color scheme on this does kind of make it whimsical and fun, so that's got a plus going for it. Let me grab some cards so we can see how well they fit in there. So I'm curious to see how many cards this will hold, and I brought a few of them to try. So firstly, a Dutch Bros gift card. Okay, it's in there pretty solid, and I actually did feel a bit of resistance once it got to the bottom here, which does mean it's not going to pull out easily. Card number 2. Ooh yeah, it's definitely getting tight in there. I am noticing that I put this too high. It's actually getting in the way with the camera lenses here. So if you end up getting something like this, make sure it's lower than the camera lenses so your cards aren't interfering in that way. So yeah, that's my fault. We can pretend that that's pushed in a little bit deeper, but let's go for card number 3. This one's a lot thicker, and it's an Apple titanium card. We'll see if this fits in there. Yeah, so I mean, with relative ease, it looks like you can at least fit 3 cards in there. Based on how wide this opening is, I would say that's probably the maximum amount of cards you can fit. Unless you have something like business cards, it might make it a little bit easier and you could probably fit a lot more in there. But as far as cards go, I am kind of impressed. I didn't think it would hold them well based on the fact that I thought it was silicone, but with this and with a bit of resistance at the bottom, they're very snug and secure in there, and I do not think they would fall out by accident. Okay, so everything is installed now and it's looking pretty good. Honestly, I'm surprised at how well it's holding the cards and the pop socket. That might be the reason why these little plastic tabs are bent inwards, because there is noticeable resistance when you're pushing these in, which does make them very snug inside. Now, as far as the look of the locket and the pop socket, I mean, I think it is kind of fun, especially with a colorful gift card. If you're looking to add a bit of design and color to the back of your iPhone, especially if you're going caseless, this is a good way to do so. But I would say a downside is it is very bulky. So I mean, even with the pop socket folded up, you are adding a noticeable amount of thickness to your phone, and I mean, that's basically thicker than the iPhone is itself if you include the pop socket. So I mean, this is a pretty simple product. As far as function goes, it does work the way it's supposed to. As far as whether or not I'd actually use this, I've never really been one for wallets on the back of a phone anyway, but I do think there are better options, which is probably why this went on clearance to begin with. But again, if this is something you don't mind and you're able to get one for cheap or on clearance, I mean, why not? The next product is this Belkin brand AirTag holder. Now I managed to get this for $4.80 versus a normal price of $13. And basically the reason I got this is because I've had an AirTag on my keys for a long time. And when I originally bought the AirTag, I bought this faux leather AirTag holder that went on my keychain. As you can tell, this thing has taken a lot of wear and a lot of damage over the years. So when I saw this on the shelf at Walmart, I figured, hey, maybe it is time to get something new and updated to replace this old one. Now, what was nice about this one is that it does come with a little strap as well. So you can use it for purposes outside of just putting it on your keys. I actually ended up taking it to a theme park that we went to as well and leaving it on our stroller just in case someone were to take it. And that was a great use case for it too, because this strap made it a lot easier for me to bind it to the stroller. So with this one, I have had it on my keychain for a couple of weeks now, just kind of feeling it out to see how it goes, and I have had no complaints. I would note that it is a hard plastic, so if you're not looking for this kind of look, I wouldn't blame you for not wanting to go for this one, because the faux leather or different types of materials might look or feel better. However, being that it's this kind of plastic, I do think that means it will be a little bit sturdier as well and last a lot longer as compared to something like this that has deteriorated a lot. And if you look closely at this one, it does also have a lip over the edges of the AirTag, which is a very good plus because my previous one did not. And I mean, if you look at this metal side of the AirTag here, it's completely scratched up just from riding in my pocket for a long time. So this lip is designed to prevent scratches like that from happening so that your AirTag does not get damaged over time. And I do also like the way that this one works, because with my previous one, the AirTag was just installed by using this clip, which never really felt very secure to me or like it was holding it tightly. With this one, it has a whole different type of mechanism, and you basically just twist these pieces apart, in order to put the AirTag in or take it out. And with this loop, you can easily add this to something like a key ring, or basically anything that you want to tether this to. It makes it very simple to do so. So again, I think this was a good purchase for $4.80. It's definitely going to be cheaper than something you find on Amazon. And I am a lot happier with this one than I am with the previous AirTag holder that I had. Okay, so our last product on this list is this on-outlet shelf. This is basically just a product that you can put onto an existing wall outlet so that you can have access to put something like a voice assistant, a smart speaker, or really anything that you want to have wired into an outlet above the outlet as a little shelf. So for me, I luckily have an outlet in the middle of the wall. I think it's probably for something like a router, or if you were to mount a TV in this room. So firstly, you have the shelf itself, which does have a little flap door right here where you can store the excess wire of whatever you're plugging in, which is nice. You have some instructions, which I did read through because this is something that does require a bit of an install. So I just wanted to make sure I was doing it all properly. And then lastly, you have some mounting hardware, which I will show you where that goes now. Okay, so step one is I do have to take the faceplate off the wall. Now the next step actually requires killing the power because we're going to be unscrewing the outlet in order to get behind the metal brackets right here that hold it onto the wall. So I'm going to go hit the breaker. Okay, so the breaker's off now. That did unfortunately kill my main softbox light, and it is dark out right now. So I'm actually gonna end up using the power bank we talked about earlier to power my LED panel lights. So basically all I had to do was loosen this plug. I don't have to take it out because what we're gonna be doing is putting installation hardware under these metal brackets. So there's a smaller metal piece which goes on the bottom, like that. The top plate is a bigger one. Now I have noticed with these installed now, the faceplate is actually pulled out from the wall a little bit, again, just because of the thickness of this metal. Hopefully when the shelf is on, you won't be able to notice that, but I thought it was worth noting. Now that this is back on, I'm gonna turn the power back on. The next step is the last step, which is actually installing the shelf. And basically all we have to do is line up this metal bracket with the little slot right here on the back of the shelf. Okay, that slid right on and it looks like it's on and sturdy now. Okay, so now that this is on, honestly, I don't think it looks that bad. It looks like it fits pretty well over the faceplate of the outlet. You can't tell that that's sticking out like I mentioned before. And again, it matches overall pretty good. Now, if you try to move it or wiggle it around, it is not sturdily on there by any means, but I don't think that necessarily matters if your intention is just to put a speaker or something of that nature on top. So I don't think that's necessarily a deal breaker, at least for the way that I'm using it. And just to clarify, it did come with two little pieces of 3M tape, which I'm assuming is to go on these legs so that it doesn't wobble as much. I don't think I'm going to use these just because I do want the option to move this later on if I need to, but that would probably make this a lot sturdier feeling. Okay, so putting the Echo on, I'm hoping is just as simple as opening this up and then fishing the cord through the little hole that's in here. So that can come through the top. I'm gonna plug it in on the top outlet right here. So once you've got everything ready, you just use this little hole in the trapdoor to have the final part of the cord come through to actually plug into your speaker. And that way the excess and messy cord can be put away neatly. And what you have is all that you need, which is a way to plug it in. Now what I'm going to be using is the full-size Echo. I believe this is a 5th generation. This thing is large, it's very heavy, but I do think it should fit okay on the shelf. Okay, honestly, I'm actually very impressed. It fits it pretty well. Again, this is the large size Echo. I was expecting it to look maybe a little excessive or oversized, but honestly, I think the shape and size of the shelf fits it very well. And I really do like how this hides away all of the cord. You cannot see any cord in there. Even though this is plugged in and only inches away from the actual device, all of the cord is hidden within this compartment, which does give it a very clean and neat look. Okay, so to be perfectly honest, this is one of the products that I bought expecting it to be kind of cool, but not necessarily something I might be interested in using. But after seeing this installed on the wall, I really do like it. And I love the idea that I can have this centered right in the middle of my room at a very nice height, instead of it being tucked away like I have normally in this little closet where it does not have the best audio range. Plus, this is actually an outlet that I never really used before anyway, because what do you do with a wall outlet when you don't have a TV mounted? This is actually probably the best way, at least that I've seen, to handle a wall outlet and add functionality to it where otherwise you wouldn't be able to. So for the price of this one, I really don't think you can beat it. I'm very happy with this product. Honestly, testing out these items today was very fun, and so was going to the store to look for them. So if you end up going out after this and looking for some clearance items, let me know what you find in the comments below. I will also have product links for these items below, or at the very least something similar in case the product listings are gone. Echo, what's your favorite thing to do?
Subscribe to WyattTech.